Hey, so what I wanted to do today is I wanted to spend a few minutes and kind of just have a conversation with you guys and the Bronco Brigade. And so what this is, welcome to the Forged in the Pacific, where our purpose here is to inspire leaders to reinvigorate the warrior ethos. Through these conversations, we hope to inspire leaders, inspire people to want to sharpen their warfighting skills, help leaders and prepare their units in order for the crucible of combat. Okay, and you know, for those that don't know who I am, I'm Colonel Matt LeClaire. I'm the commander for JPMRC and the COG, but I'm also the commander for the 196th the Infantry Brigade. We've done a few of these with the 11th Airborne Division, and the whole purpose of recording this is so that we can share with other people the lessons that you guys learned and the things that you kind of are bringing out there. We're putting these things on paper, we're sharing them, but in every way, shape, or form here at JPMRC, we're trying to increase how well we communicate what we're learning with the other units that are getting ready to go through very similar things. And you guys have had a special opportunity over the last 6 months or so to kind of follow in the footsteps of the Warrior Brigade and now take it to the next thing. So, you know, today's conversation is with the Bronco Brigade, right? And so if you guys could just take a couple seconds and just introduce who you are and what you do for the Bronco Brigade, please. AK.
All right, hey, it's good to see you again, man. Gosh, how long has it been? Colonel Disa King, 3rd Brigade, Mobile Brigade now, right? Some Mobile Brigade commander. Been in the seat for about 503 days and been in theater for almost 4 years. So excited for this opportunity just to share with you and just really have a good conversation. So,
Yeah, awesome.
Gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Michael Levis. I'm the 3rd Mobile Brigade Command Sergeant Major. Been in position just a little over about 13 months now. You know, my background a little bit different from what the norm has been here in 3rd Brigade. I'm a 19 Delta by trade, and as we've been slowly deactivating the CAF squadrons and consolidating.
On right now,
sir. Right here, got my belt buckle as well, right? So we've gone a long ways with how we repurposed the CAV squadrons and are now enabling the infantry battalions to really take hold here, back to the formation of a pure concept with 3rd Brigade infantry, right? Yeah. So good to see that. Glad to be in this position to be able to see that transformation going. As this is something that's not new to me, coming from the 101st and now coming forward to the brigade level.
You said like 3 things that I just want to put already in your mind and for everybody's mind that I want to make sure we talk about. You said cavalry squadron, right? Gain and maintain contact with the enemy. It's a huge thing about what we're talking about, right? So by bringing the experience that you have from being a 19 Delta and a Cav squadron, we need that in our brigades, in all of the brigades, right? And you came from the 101st. We need that experience of what's coming from the 82nd, from the 101st, from the 10th Mountain, from all these organizations. And we need to bring it all together and what they're learning at JRTC and NTC. That's the whole point of what we're doing, right? We're not just trying to do our one mission. We're trying to take what everybody else is learning and the experiences and bring it all together. Blank.
Hey, sir, good to see you again. Major Rick Blank. I'm the Bronco Brigade Executive Officer. Coming in from last spring. Before that, I was the No Fear S3, and this is actually my 3rd opportunity to do JPMRC with you, sir. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, last year as the Op4. And you take so much of what you learned as the Op4, right? And now you get to kind of bring it into the rotational unit. And one of my favorite questions is why is the Op4 always successful? And why is the rotational unit always struggling, right? And I hope we kind of talk about what were some of those things that you took from being the Op4 that were highly successful and now bringing them to the Bronco Brigade.
Sure. Thanks for having us. My name is Major Anthony Maldonado. I'm the 3rd Brigade S3 Operations Officer. I joined the brigade team here in May 2025. Before that, I was the S3 down at 235 Cacti. Similar to Rick, you know, this is my 4th year here going on the island. It's been interesting to watch the JPMRC exercise grow along with the ops group grow and kind of just the impact that it's had, really not just on the RTU brigade, but kind of how the division fights and really gaining that opportunity every single year to exercise that division high comm kind of best practices.
Yeah. Well, what I want to start off with is like, what was kind of going through your mind when you watched the Warrior Brigade, you were the OP4, right? And then you watched the Warrior Brigade go through their rotation and you're like, how do I set the glide path for this year's JPMRC? What were some of the things that you thought of first?
Well, man, that's a great question because even now, right, what Dave's been able to do is what I wanted us to do last year. I wanted us to have that opportunity to actually be that OP4 commander, to figure out how we fight and report directly to the COG, report directly to you so I can get a good rehearsal and just, thinking about how we would operate in the terrain. But then actually seeing Dave go through, had a great opportunity to sit down and went to his talk and kind of his CP and saw the issues and things he was thinking through.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain comms? How do you hide? How do you use these vehicles that we have?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you communicate with everyone? And how do you plan? Right? Because that's the thing I saw and I said, okay, I think I'm seeing the problem now, or seeing how we could probably shape going forward, shape our brigade, shape our training from being lighter, being smaller, being able to hide, have the right communications.
Yeah.
Seeing that made me rethink of, looking at our training objectives, looking at what specific training does the staff need to do, what specific training does the companies need to do, and who do I need to focus on? And that's the part for me that I was excited about. So after seeing what Dave and his team went through, and then being able to kind of be in not the back seat, but like on the sideline, the sidelines, and seeing what Jimmy Lucas, who was the 3/4 cav OP4, and then what Tyler Patterson, what he was able to do.
Yep.
And it goes back to he understood the terrain. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah.
No Fear knows the dang terrain in the Kahukus. And that's refined me to really think about the fights that I need to share with the team.
Yeah.
So,
and I took that, what you said that we learned last year in Hawaii, Jimmy Howell jumped in with Arctic Aloha.
Yeah.
I immediately took him on a ride along, him and his CSM, go see what it's like. Cause picture's worth 1,000 words, but a video is worth 1,000,000. Right. And so one day driving around, seeing how things are working, he said, this is going to shape my preparation for the exercise. We did that with Chris Brawley during the 211, doing multiple ride-alongs, one. But two, we let Chris Brawley use his brigade TAC as part of the exercise. So we had a battalion as the OP4, but then Colonel Brawley and his Sergeant Major Wagner, they went into the box and practiced all the, how are we going to communicate? How are we going to give out orders? How are we going to do these things? A free rep, right? But a repetition on how many Cat Vs does it take to be in the talk? We missed that opportunity last year for you. And I said, I'm not missing that opportunity ever again. So everybody that's a part of this exercise is getting to learn. Nobody is simply out there to just have someone get after their training objectives. Everybody is out there with their own training objectives. Sure. Everybody's a part of this. And this year, Brian Waitman will jump in with 211. He'll jump in Arctic Aloha, and I'll take him around and see how everything is going, so he can get ready for the rotation next year, and he'll be the OP4 for Chris Brawley. So it's all one big family. Sergeant Major.
So one of the things I think that we did coming out of the JPMRC from last year, right, as performing that OP4 piece, that we didn't really talk about too much, only until it came up, was our integration with our partnered elements that we had, our partnerships. We took that, and I believe that was what kind of set our tone for a glide path when it came to enablers, right? So I know we have partners, but for our glide path coming up, we didn't have too many of our outside partnership nations with us, but we did have our sappers returned back from Kekai to come support during live fires. Our artillery brothers came back, and now they're out there. Now we have to integrate them into our plan. So turning the partnership into integration is where I think we kind of saw that take off, and we've been doing that from Bronco Smoke to Blitz, and then now going into JPMRC, we'll have integration of our enablers, but now we got to bring in our partners when they all come to play. So I think we did that well.
Huge.
I think that to that point, you begin to narrow down really quick, because you can get a lot of noise. And that's where for us it became one word, is integrate. And now you can riff off that, and anything you do, say, how are you integrating? Who are you integrating? What did they need to integrate?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we saw some of that. And when you didn't integrate well, we saw what happened to some units. At least with 227, they did it well. But as they were being out for, we saw what happened when other units were not integrating well.
For sure. That's a good segue into when you started thinking about those things and then you started driving towards leader training program, LTP. That was one of the first things you brought up to me is like, we're going through LTP, but without any of your enablers and without the people that you need to start to integrate, that was a challenge for you.
Yeah.
And we said like, hey, okay, we'll make that adjustment in the future. We'll focus on what we can right now with the organization, the people that we have that are at LTP. But talk about how you how it shaped your thoughts on like how LTP was going to go. What do you guys think? Because, it's primarily for the staff, right? Blank.
So I apologize. I'm going to hop on the Op4 train for just a second.
Please.
I was going to say Op4 is a great rep. It was there's a lot of latitude, and with that, the team gets really creative. And one thing we learned, and we took that lesson into LTP, we had the opportunity to have 4 multinational partners, and it's critical to learn how to integrate them because they have skill sets we don't, and vice versa. So when you learn how to use them for their skill set as well as enablers, you add in a little creativity, I think you get a better net results, or I'll come back around for LTP.
Yeah, so sir, just on that, looking at Second Brigade, and I think this is a unique division in the sense that I talk to my, brigade counterpart over in the Warrior Brigade, almost daily with it, and I think one of the true values, and looking at kind of what they've been doing over the past, year and a half, 2 years, quite literally transforming in contact. Starting their journey in February, and then by that JPMRC fighting as what was then a light brigade combat team, and kind of taking ownership of that. And so I think really one of the values of JPMRC out here is it allows you to train on both sides of the ball. It increases transparency across the division that you don't really get. As in 101st, when we went to a JRTC rotation, one brigade kind of disappears down to Fort Polk. And then they might come back and do a division LPD on here's the things to do better. Quite literally, whether it was Rick and the 227 team kind of fighting them, having the drone footage, seeing how they looked. I think that's one of the benefits that we have of the JPMRC construct. It's training on both sides of the ball. Unfortunately, last year we were coming back from Super Rooter Shield at the time the JPMRC was kicking off, but I was actually jealous to not get an opportunity to do the Op4 role, just because that creating that dynamic environment as part of JPMRC, I think, it just maximizes the overall training value and then increases the kind of transparency of lessons learned. So, while I'm sure 2nd Brigade will say their rotation wasn't perfect, they did a lot of great things, and it's super beneficial for the non-RTU brigade to kind of see that from that perspective, because I think it's humbling. Because you look at it and you say, okay, would I have done it that way? I don't know, but under the same constraints, that might have been the best way to achieve it. So that's one of the unique aspects of it. Now, specifically as we're going to LTP, I think one of the biggest struggles that I've dealt with in this campaign of learning as we transition to a mobile brigade, and we some of the brigade combat team aspects kind of go away or consolidated into Barty or the division sustainment brigade, it is really just, what is our fight? And and sometimes like you said, sir, it can be distracting. And the most kind of encouraging thing is war fighting has not changed. I use the equivalent of, you go back to World War I and they create the machine gun, and that the counteraction was create the trench. Something's always going to continue to evolve when it comes to warfighting, but the warfighting process has not changed. And I think something I've got a true appreciation for going through LTP this time as a brigade field grade was just falling back on doctrine. And I know, there'll be rewrites to all of our kind of guiding doctrine of how brigade and battalions fight. But I think, it does a really good job in the meantime of applying, regardless of what your formation looks like, those kind of planning process and the planning kind of fundamentals that we had a lot of conversations late night as we went back from our planning bay back to our two-person bunk, kind of just talking about that. So that was going into LTP, and we have an extremely strong staff from a sense of, our S2 Ken Russell, his experience at NTC, and I think you got to see a little bit at when we did LTP. And that really does help when you go in there and the entire staff's kind of just engaged and kind of locked in, defaulting back to doctrine, because I think that's what it's for.
Yeah. The more things are changing, the more you should rely back on the absolute basics when there's uncertainty.
So and the part you said something before, so did the three. All these things are going, all this new stuff coming, and then we'll do what I'm calling the fuzzy buzzy words, right? There's some buzzy words going on, but it's fuzzy. Brilliance in the basics. Okay, what is the basics? Mm-hmm. So for LTP, that's when the team was helping. Let's look at what intent is. Hey, can we do our jobs that we're supposed to be doing? Can we deploy? Can we do recon? Can we fight? Can we sustain? Can you do that? And then one of the key tasks we looked at is, can the staff actually do the planning? Just go to the planning, MDMP, do it step by step. And that's why I appreciate Ike and his team and kind of what you all are able to do to kind of help us. Like, hey, I first want to let's just assess where we are.
Yeah.
Because usually we just jump right in and just start going. Say, hey, stop. That's what we were talking about, the 10-step training model versus the 8-step will get you there. The 10-step will keep you there.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where for us, let's first assess where we are, how we do training, and then go through the basics up in LTP. And that's the thing that when I look at my approach as we got into LTP, I said, I want us to isolate. And I know the division team and with the brigade, like the brigade team, we were able to find a place that would just isolate us, man. And I was like, hey, you're not going home. You stay right here.
You had barracks, you had a chow hall, you had classrooms, you had everything out there.
You were able to put in the work. Mm-hmm. And that isolation I found is a TTP that we got to definitely just maintain.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. One of the things we're talking to the Chief of Staff of the Army about all the CTCs this week is about how are we modernizing our LTP program, and the ways that we're modernizing our LTP program. Number one, the LTP comes to the unit, right? So it's here in the 25th in Hawaii, and it's in Alaska for the unit. We just did it. I just came back last week from the 11th Airborne Division. We did it up at Fort Wainwright with Chris Brawley and his team, the Arctic Wolves. Oh, yeah. This next thing we're doing is that those same coaches that are with you during your LTP, those same coaches that were with you are going to come out to the field. Yeah. They're going to come to the rotation. And so you're going to see your coach, and we're going to talk about hey, don't forget what we talked about. Don't forget what we learned. How are things going? They're going to help us drive the AAR. They're going to help us with our assessments. Yeah. So those same coaches, kind of from cradle to grave, are what are going to develop a relationship with each of our brigades. That's what we're doing with LTP.
That right there, man. I know Ike and I, one of the coaches, we've known each other and worked together for a long time. But we talk about being coachable. Mm-hmm. The thing is, you got to be willing to coach is the other part of that. And we absolutely, I appreciate the heck out of it. And that is, I believe, a great step to where the coach analysis says, okay, let me see where you are. Hey, okay, did you make those changes? You kind of hold this, accountability partner a little bit. But also, I got the team here where we sat in front of each other and say, hey, guys, this is what I think I need. And that you got to keep me honest on this, and we got to keep each other honest. But definitely, that is I think, a great TTP.
What did you learn at LTP? What was the biggest takeaway? I know there's tons of takeaways. We got it. Sure. There's also, we get tons of practice. We get tons of repetition. But what was the biggest takeaway for you?
Oh, sir, you went to me. I'm not sure I was quite ready. What I was going to do was, as the XO, I was going to speak up on behalf of the staff, because really we trained for it all summer, and I appreciate, one, the team's willingness to teach each other and work through it together. And to build off Anthony's point, we kind of started with 5-0 and the doctrine, and then we worked our PSOP. And what made us successful at LTP and continued into LTP was having those hard discussions when we came to something that was different. One we spent a lot of time on was, what is recon now? And just working through that together. and then continue that discussion through Bronco Blitz because we're not sure if we have it quite right. But we
Yeah.
put an earmark next to it and say, okay, here's where we got to. How do we get a little bit more? My main takeaway from LTP was really the teamwork and the camaraderie. So we built our core team, and I think that ties back into the MBDE versus the BCT vice the task force. The truth is we lean in on that core team and we have a good process, and then we integrate people at the right meeting. The right meeting with the right people will be okay because our team is the experts, and we know our mission and our commander's intent. And we got to try that a few times. And our focus with the battle rhythm is just less but more effective meetings and getting the right people in the room.
Yeah. I like that you said camaraderie and teamwork and stuff, because there can be a lost appreciation for how important it is to build the team before you go and do something hard, right? And you know, one of the soft truths is humans are more important than hardware. Like you can go out there and get a bunch of fancy technology and get all this stuff and put it around, but if you don't have a cohesive team that cares about each other and that knows how each other think and starts working together and knows the basics, right? All that new technology is just it's not going to be as effective as it would with a cohesive team.
To add on to that, there's a term we use in division. I mean, I think we all use it. Our leaders use it. Is we say, task for purpose. You're going to be tasked for purpose, and it's almost like a free agent. Well, in certain athletics and certain things, that works. But if you don't have a relationship, if you don't build a team, and that's where in the SATB, when talking to the Corps Commander, we said, and we all were kind of going off each other when we said, okay, what is our theme? We said, we got to first set the team, right? Build a team, train the team, fight the team, deploy the team.
Yes.
And right now, LTP was that, hey, let's set the team right now. And then we're going to train. And those things help hone it where you isolate yourself. And hey, I said, this is not about getting, staying all night and working. We will do that if we have to, but first let's just make sure we know the team, right? And that's why, for me, the quicker we can, assume a task org, hey, task org need to be like this.
Yeah.
We need to start it now. So we're not waiting. And so somebody shows up, they don't understand how you do things, and it goes back to integration.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the things I know I picked up from that one, to your point, like, hey, we had fun, just building the team. After that, we were able to train harder. So
We'll go to you, and then I want to transition to how did that drive home station training and and how you were going to do Bronco Blitz? Go.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I think I had a little bit of fun actually at LTP. It helped that I was over on Bellows, but being in that environment, especially the first time I went through LTP down at Fort Polk, I was a student of Coach Kershaw down there as an AS3, so definitely more stressful. But the coaching team that came out is just their level of involvement ahead of the engagement, during, and then post. Really is best coaching I've had, in the Army, and truthfully needed it. So echo Rick's comments about just building the staff. Where we hit LTP, it was on the back end of our summer transitions, and so we had some primary staff that was their first event. They'd done reception, they'd done bolt, and you're coming to Bellows with us to do it. And so I think that really helped us as we kind of progressed into our training. The last one I had hit, and sorry, Major, I don't know if you want to echo it, but just kind of everyone's role in NVMP and the planning process and maximizing it, not just making this such an officer-centric thing, just the role of the NCOs and the planning process, getting everyone involved. And it's not, we had specialists there briefing during the IPO briefs. And so I think what it does is it before you start doing it under canvas, it really helps everyone with their confidence level. If I've got to brief the brigade commander and command sergeant major on IPO, but they're going to listen, and what I have to say matters, not just to them, but to the larger audience. So that was something that was really beneficial. I think we got an opportunity because it was on the island to kind of maximize that participation. So
I saw that same thing in the 11th, but because they were doing it there at J-Bear, there was people that could come down for a couple of hours, participate in the exercise, provide their expertise, and get back to some other things. It wasn't a distraction. Jimmy Howell said, if the attitude is right, the location is irrelevant. is what he said.
Right, and I think and I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the points I didn't want to transition just quite yet because I wanted to bring up that point that when I spoke there, I was talking about, we will get funneled into a planning, methodology where, we start getting into it and then it's that planning in a vacuum. But you have enablers out there. Your enablers are your NCOs. They're your enlisted soldiers that give you that common sense kind of sniff as is that really where we want to go with their team? And then as they start to unravel a little bit, you've got operations sergeant majors who come with a wealth of knowledge who are there ready and willing to give up that information to help the planning process. And so I guess it just came down to, for me, what I wanted to get out of it was where do we see our enlisted, operators and their expertise on their assigned systems that they're going to have while they use it through LTP and into JPMRC, and are they familiar with those systems to allow their section and functional area to be expanded on and just be technically proficient at their job. And then the last thing that I wanted to get out of it was pre-positioning of where the sergeant majors were going to be. Yeah. So for me, it was medical sustainment and planning. So that medical rehearsal we did, the sustainment rehearsal that we did at the back end of this, we forget about the sustainment piece until it's phased in the operation, where sustainment is continuous across all phases of the operation. And it was really just to drive down to the sergeant majors. Where are you pre-positioning yourself? Where are you seeing your assets? And where do they account for things like mass cal scenarios? Putting the common sense to, do we really want to put the roll 2 on top of the hill where it's fully exposed, even though there's a great spot for an LZ, but we all know that's going to be a targeted position. And if we're not using those senior enlisted to help drive your planning, then why did we even go to LTP? Yeah, because they're there for all those right reasons that we're asking our staffers or our staff positions to really come out with a great plan. So that's what I wanted to get out.
Yeah. And so how did those things that you learned that at LTP, and you immediately tried to drive it into Bronco Blitz, right? And you said, let's go practice these things in Bronco Blitz. How did it drive the time that you spent out there?
Man, where should we start?
Sir, I think identifying, with everything going on, and all these opportunities, really to train as a mobile brigade with the multifunctional reconnaissance company, with the multipurpose companies, kind of with some of this new equipment. I think sort of the most important conversation that you and I had as we were working through some of the additions to Bronco Blitz is identifying the primary training audience, looking at the secondary training audience and the tertiary training audience, and how we're going to be ruthless about prioritizing that primary training audience, which were the companies, but creating an environment in which the secondary and tertiary training audience, secondary being battalions and tertiary being the brigade, how they were going to get good, tough, realistic training. And I think what LTP provided us the most is, again, coming out of there, we had a great whole staff effort that got together and built very credible kind of blue tactical order to give to battalions to then turn and execute their own planning process. I'll pause there. But.
No, that's spot on. So I'll take a step back, right? And I said, okay, we had to look from LTP, what are our fights? And that was one thing I picked up from the coach. And then you realize that, yeah, my fight is, first of all, we need to understand ourselves, understand what our organization is. Then you need to understand high headquarters mission, intent, and the whole nine. Then you need to look at how you're going to understand the enemy. And then after that, how you understand the terrain. So now we get into Blitz. It's like, okay, first of all, I need to get the mission command systems. Let's make sure that's right. And something that me and Rob Shaw talked about, and even when we first started this whole journey, is as far as me coming on board, is like, can you do what you say you can do? Mm-hmm. Can you deploy? Can you do reconnaissance? Can you actually do a fight mission? And in that fight, that could be an air assault, that could be an attack. It's all the mess, right? Can you do it? And can you sustain it? That's what I wanted to see. Could we do that? Yeah. That's what shaped it, and that's what shaped say, hey, I just want to train on the primary training audience, the company. I do appreciate about giving the battalions and giving the brigade an opportunity to get after some training, but that's what honed me and sergeant majors, like, hey, my primary training officer is a company commander and the first sergeant, and we're going to be ruthless with them. Anything comes from anybody else, It's good, but that's my primary training office because I need to be, and we need to be able to provide train companies to the division.
Yeah.
Period. And that's the way we looked at it, and that's how we went forward with training the team going into blitz.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. What about you guys? How did kind of LTP drive us into blitz?
Yes, sir. Happy to take that one. As far as the staff, and again, we're the tertiary training audience, but it's a unique opportunity at Blitz. Our LTP AAR became our Blitz concurrent training plan. So we deliberately continued. It was about taking the classroom into the field. So over 10 days, we put up all the nodes and we hit deliberate training objectives every day, sir. So very valuable. And then it was the right place to incorporate new equipment systems. Mm-hmm. So very helpful, and we had objectives and we got after them, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the key is that the LTP, the AAR is, okay, so what does home station training look like, you know? And if we could, and if we were thinking ahead, you know, we start thinking coming out of Bronco Blitz, what's the AAR from Bronco Blitz? How do we spend the rest of our time in order to get in order to prepare for the actual exercise, right? Yeah. So what came out of Bronco Blitz now, and you're like, okay, how, you said it to me, how do I spend the remainder of my time right before I go into the box? What are the things I should be focusing on? What are the things that you guys feel like you need to be focusing on or you want to be focusing on over the next few weeks?
So I mean, so first and foremost, it's building off of, you know, the rep that we got during LTP, kind of in a somewhat permissive setting, then taking that under canvas during Bronco Blitz, and now building on that. Really, our staff is humming, will be humming for it, and really producing an executable plan. It doesn't have to be perfect, but producing an executable plan, getting that in the hands of the battalions, and then, you know, one unique, as we get to JPMRC, I think how we do reconnaissance, and I know the fundamental question that we've seen asked a lot of, you know, infantry warfighting forum, who does reconnaissance? I would argue that it's who doesn't do reconnaissance now, and obviously we've got the multifunctional reconnaissance company that we've got, you know, effects and UAS, but I think it just becomes inherent in every formation that we've got to execute the reconnaissance and security tasks at scale. And so I think, you know, really operating as a brigade and using that to drive the fires and targeting process in conjunction with what Davardi is bringing to the fight. I'm really excited to see how that plays out. And I think that's another unique opportunity that we get as part of JPMRC, really out here.
Yeah, love it.
I think, I'm going to go, Sergeant Major, your kind of thoughts on that.
Yeah, so what I want to get out of this as we go forward is, you know, I talked about the sergeant majors a lot because, you know, we kind of get this free hand in a CTC rotation where, you know, everything's sought after as like, well, you know, sergeant majors can kind of move around the battlefield and you know, be at the point of friction. And when we talk about the point of friction, it's like really it's about the leader placement. You don't have to be at friction if we can maintain that initiative of being there before it's even a point to be discussed. Mm-hmm. Things like we've talked about the heavy PZs.
Yes, sir.
We know that there's going to be friction points there, but if you can have a strong leader who is there in pre-position there, who can help solve the problem before they even start, we're going to have a smooth transition for something that's probably our most high-risk event going on is a nighttime air assault.
Yeah.
That's always going to be risk inherent there, but I wanted to get a lot of it from the sergeant major aspect of it, and I know we'll drive into talking about the basics, and when I get to the brilliant in the basics, I want to switch from NCO empowerment to NCO ownership, because if we're not owning that fight down to the team leader level, because it's really the team leader is that junior level leader that is going to help with developing the proficiencies that we ask our soldiers to have. Everything from putting on camo and when to take it off and when to, hey, we're going to be rucking out for quite a long ways. I don't need camo on right now. I'm going to sweat through that and I'm going to probably become a heat casualty, right? So knowing how to differentiate between when to go tactical and when to have common sense. But it's going to be from empowerment to ownership is what I'm trying to drive through this, from brilliant to the basics into sergeant majors owning fieldcraft.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to get out of it.
Yeah. Sorry. One more thing. You know, I had a actually looking back on it, it was a really unique opportunity. So we went to LTP, and then the day after I came out of LTP, I had the opportunity to go over to the Philippines as part of the initial planning conference for Salaknib, Balakatan, part of Operation Pathways, and I actually got a chance to work with some of the 196 team out of Guam there as we walked there. But you know, what stuck out to me is absolutely we were laser focused on winning JPMRC, but really that is still just a means to prepare us for what we actually do. And what was interesting is coming out of LTP, planning this, you know, developing the plan, and then walking some of the terrain west of the IDL and in areas that we would actually operate in was a it was a clarifying moment of kind of why this is all important, why we're doing this. And as we move into JPMRC, obviously we were, laser focused on, winning the fight in the Kahukus, conducting a long range air assault. But this all builds really on what this division does, I think, kind of west of the IDL. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because like what you guys did last year, or what you're doing this year, you're going to prep, you're going to execute this exercise here in Hawaii with your partners, multiple islands. But then the real rehearsal is in the summer. Yeah. It's in the Philippines, on the dirt, in the location where we're going to be asked to do it with the right people. And it's the picture that we see up on the screen, right behind it, right? Yeah. One thing leads to the next. This is a preparation, certifying the organization to deploy into the region, and to be able to do what they're asked to do.
Here's what was I think dynamic about it, and I realized this when we were speaking today at SATB. 3 days after command, I went and executed JPMRCX, the first one that was
last year.
And you saw the terrain, you saw the challenges. The vehicles that you think can move somewhere will not be moving. Mm-hmm. The mobility that's required, the physical fitness that's required, and then also how are you integrating with your partners, because you can go only as fast as they can. Yep. And that, to me, when it kind of dawned on me that now that shaped how I thought about our training going forward
for this exercise. Yeah,
not only for this exercise, but just the training progression
for real.
Throughout. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the part where you get a good appreciation for it. And to get to your question of, okay, what do you do now between after the training and before you go? If you can talk, if you can communicate, and how and what you want to get done, if you can communicate, you can solve a lot of problems. Yep. Period. Yep. And so for me is, just simplifying, we call it a playbook, just simplifying what needs to be communicated and what helps me make a decision. Yeah. But those are the only things I think through right now. Just let's make sure that when they ask a question, I'm able to be precise, be quick, and this is how we're going to communicate it. And on what net it is, we just got to just focus on that. Yeah. That's what at least that's what I'm thinking through right now. Yeah, I love it. It's what you talk about, what information you need to make decisions is way more important than how you are going to communicate it, what you communicate, right? Because then people know that is a piece of information that our commander needs in order to make a decision. And then they'll find a way to report it and get that information to you on one of those mechanisms, right? Okay, so now as we you came out of Bronco Blitz, you're going to spend these last few days, as we prepare for this exercise, what's something that you want to kind of communicate to your formation, and you're communicating to them every single day how to get themselves in the right attitude, if you will, how to spend that remaining time that they have, whether it's the staff, our NCOs or our leaders as we're going forward. I'll start one thing that I think through is, would you do the same thing if someone was really trying to kill you? Period. If you would not do this, if someone was deliberately trying to kill you, we're not doing that. We're not. So if you think about how you, and whenever we talk to anyone that comes to the brigade, we do the opening remarks or just kind of the welcome them in. It says, hey, be lethal, be reliable, and own your fight. right? How are you being lethal right now? How are you being reliable? And how are you owning your fight? And that goes from, I said, from the private that just showed up all the way up to me.
Yeah.
If you can do that right there, that's the message that I tell the team, at least anybody coming in, that's what I need you to do. If you can do that, I think we'll be in a good spot no matter what the mission is, no matter where we go, where we get deployed, because we were sitting in Indonesia. You remember this? And next thing, we got a phone call. They're saying, hey, yeah, I know y'all planning to do this thing. I need you to get ready to go do here. We were like, all right, game on. What equipment do we have? And everybody starts to really, really think, like, are we going? I'm like, hey, it doesn't matter. Are you owning your fight? If the boss said go, can you go?
Yeah.
You have all your equipment with you? All right, then. You're not worried about it, right? So whether as we get through JPMRC and even as we get to Operation Pathways, you maintain at least those 3 things, we're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah.
That's the message I would pass on.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Major.
Definitely.
3.
Yeah, so the messaging that usually I put out there with kind of with the troops is, we see a lot of the new ISVs that we're getting right now, a lot of the new equipment. And so, we have our legacy equipment. We've seen where that's gone. We've seen soldiers put all time and effort into motor pool Mondays, PMCS of their equipment. But really for them is like, okay, we have the equipment now, but how are we going to be deliberate about how they use it and how they maintain it from now until then? Because we can't see sense if we're not maintaining those batteries, we're not maintaining the system itself to go and fly and do that reconnaissance that we're asking people to do for us. So for me, it's a lot of the equipment and maintenance to the formation. Then it goes back down to the soldier performance and their fitness, right? Recover in the day, we fight at night. And by recovering in the day doesn't mean you're just sleeping all day. You're going to get out there and you're going to acclimatize to the weather, right? So it's doing PT, probably the hottest part of the day, but knowing how to tailor that and scale it back for what mission you're about to go do. So utilizing this time to get ourselves right as we prepare into JPMRC and then actually prepare longevity into to pathways is how we're using our recovery plans with our H2F that we have now with the brigade is going to be pretty essential for us. And then the last thing I would get after is we talked about fieldcraft, right? It's like if we can drill it down to the days where team leaders and squad leaders can take their soldiers out throughout the week, take them to a part of the quad, take them away from the quad, and then bring them to a place where they can learn how to disperse, camouflage themselves, camouflage their vehicles, camouflage their equipment, and then something that I think we kind of neglect a little bit is water conservation. Is learn how to save a little bit of water. Don't be just chugging all that water down, and then realizing you may need to sip it because once they get out there, that resupply it's going to be kind of hard to get out there once we're contested. So that's a lot of the takeaways was how do we maintain ourselves throughout this entire fight, and that's the message I like to get out to everybody out there.
I think it's going to resonate well, and it already is. Yeah. Plank.
Yes, sir. So when I think about the staff's trained, we're ready. We tend to overwhelm folks. So what our main focus needs to be is bring clarity to the chaos. Fight to stay focused on what matters, and what matters is timely and concise orders that enables violence action at the point of decision. So if we stay focused on enabling battalions to win and staying inside the commander's intent and try to keep the rest of everything else away from the warfighters, then we're doing our job, sir.
Yeah. You do that, we're going to have a good time, here in a couple weeks. It's going to be awesome.
Sure. So, agree with all of those. I would argue too, these CTC rotations can be fun. I look back at my experiences at JRTC, driving around my first R in HHC, evacuating casualties. Some of the most fun I've had, and sure the gravity of the situation of when we do this, we've got to believe that the next time we're doing this could be when there's for real. So not to make light of it, but I do think this is what we do. This is exactly what we do. This is what we're here to do, especially as an infantry mobile brigade. Secondly, back in I think it was 2022 when I first got here. We had a DCGO who kind of sat the entire division staff down. I was telling Rick, about this kind of story. It was the first year that JPMRC had kind of grown into what it is now. And he kind of sat down. You could tell there was a lot of stress. Everybody was working really hard to get, and it was great because he sat the staff down and said, look, if you're not a little bit nervous or worried that this is going to go horribly wrong, then you're probably not keyed in. But rest assured, everybody understands their job, what they need to do, and everybody's committed. And so, when I look at as a 3, I've got an entire shop behind. You've seen my ops sergeant shirt. No one's messing with him. But and just a complete powerhouse of talent, both across the staff and then down at the battalions. And so, really, it's a little bit, it's a little weight off my shoulders in terms of we got a tremendous team that's just willing to work their tails off to do it. So.
Yeah, well, I feel blessed to be able to do it with you guys last year, this whole preparation, and then get to kind of go through this exercise with you guys. I'll hand it to you for the last word here in a second, but people ask me this a lot, right? And I just had to provide some of this feedback to General Mingus, for the warfighting conference. And it's like, what are the consistent things that you see, right? And sometimes you call that write the AAR before it even happens, and what are the things that you guys are going to do? Well, you're gonna do well, and the things that you're gonna struggle with. The new ISV and the new equipment is gonna help with mobility. We learned that, and you guys are gonna be able to move around the battlefield at a rate that I think we haven't seen in the years to pass. I think you guys are gonna do that, really good. I think you guys are going to do well with a culture of fires, with calling for fire, using fires, not leading with our humans, as we go through. And you can throw everything into that when it comes to, our small UAS and everything that we have from a robotic, standpoint. I think you guys are going to do good in that area. I think you're going to do good with your field craft better than what you think because of your field training. Right? Units that do extra field training, they spend more time in the field, simply at the ranges, doing more FTXs, going through those, learning how to operate out of their rucksack and with their equipment. Those units do much better at a CTC than the ones that only did 1 or 2 field exercises, and they were only 3 or 4 days. Right? The units that do more rehearsals, right, do better at a CTC. Yesterday, behind my house, right over here in the Stuccos, I love it because your mortar platoon comes back there and sets up the mortars, puts the tripods out, starts yelling, "Get the F up here!" My mother-in-law's sitting out there on the back patio, looking over the fence, they are setting up in the grass in my my backyard. The units that do rehearsals, more rehearsals than others, do very well at a CTC. Because they're rehearsing the basic stuff, how to get in and out of the truck. They do more driver's training than anybody else. Those basics, those units do very well. And you hit it on it. The units that integrate their enablers from the beginning, the units that establish a relationship with their partners and the other countries that integrate well with them, they do very well at the CTCs. The things that we struggle with a lot when it comes to communication, a lot of units, they come in and they know how to communicate. They know how to turn the radio on. They know how to provide a common operating picture, whether it's a Teams or something like that. But as soon as this commo's up, they don't know what information to share. They're like, now what? Now that the radio works and now that I can communicate, what do you want to hear? What do you want me to provide you in a 7-minute drill? What information do you need in order to rapidly make a decision right at this moment? That needs to be as clear as it can. What we communicate is more important than how. Okay. Yep. Number 2, field craft. People can still improve in the field craft, even the ones that how are you going to sustain yourself? Field craft is the reason we lose tempo while we're out there. Because if you run out of water and you have too many heat casualties, we come to a screeching halt. If we can't feed them, if we can't keep moving, you can't continue to move the brigade. They're not ready to go, right? If they can't do the long foot march and then immediately go into the attack, you lose tempo while you're out there. So field craft leads to operational tempo. Reconnaissance and security, you guys talked about having a deliberate plan. Units that don't have a deliberate plan for reconnaissance and security will struggle because they will have to go off of what somebody else told them is out there on the objective. And when the first time they figure out and confirm or deny whatever's up there on the objective is when humans come across the objective. That's too late. Our soldiers deserve for us to confirm what's up there through our reconnaissance, and they deserve for us to protect them, provide them with early warning through security. That's why I say reconnaissance and security. The first time the enemy bumps into you can't be when it's direct fire engagement.
Right.
You need to know that they're coming, at what size that they're coming, right? You need to be able to transition from the offense to the defense, right? And from the defense back to the offense, and you'd be able to sustain yourself. If you come out of that defense and it takes you 48 hours to quickly regroup and get back on the offense, you're going to lose that tempo. You're going to lose that momentum. And then the fighting products, what products you're going to use, your sync matrix, you have to talk about them ahead of time so that you're not modifying how those do during the rotation. That needs to just become part of your life and how you operate on a daily basis, right? The way you operate back here in the rear, that you can be starting to use some of these things while you're out there. You know, I really look forward to doing this rotation. I look forward to having a very similar conversation with you guys after the rotation, and then compare what we just said and compare it to what actually happens when we're out there. I think this is going to be a great rotation because you guys are the kind of organization that's learning every single day. We're not waiting for the mid-row. If we see something that we can be doing to improve, coaches are going to come in there and make recommendations, and you guys have been receptive to how to make those modifications. So I'm super excited for how this rotation goes. I know we're going to do it right.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. And again, I appreciate it, all of what we're doing, because we said it together as a team. It says it's not about me being right; it's about getting it right. And that to me says, hey, if I'm screwed up on something, be able to own it and say, I screwed that up, and now let's get better. And I think that's really, when you talk about integrating everybody, setting conditions, and as an organization, I think we've been able to do that, to say, hey, listen, be able to own your fight, own the part where you screwed up and say, I want to get this better. And then you got to hold each other accountable. I think that's one of the things I think through as we go forward is, how do we get better? And that's why I love our motto. Be better, get better, because there's none better. Just be there. Just be better, man.
I'm better.
Be better. I'm better, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks for doing this with me, guys. Thank you for sharing everything.